all the way from Australia, Thailand, Copenhagen, Cairo. We are going to explore an exceptional journey, how to use like being stranded, being alone, and turning this into a business. Joe, could you please introduce yourself and what do you do for business?
Yeah, sure. Hey everyone, really lovely to be here. So my name's Jo. I'm a freedom and transformation coach. And basically I work with people to restore calm and balance, build confidence and self-esteem and create a life they truly desire. So I look at, where you are now, where you want to be, and then bridging the gap between that.
Let's start where the journey started. Like, how did you come to this place and what happened?
Sure. So I had worked running workshops and yoga retreats and yoga workshops and all these different things for quite a few years, and then I moved into purely on the online space all around the time sort of COVID happened and the world shut down. And initially I had my business that I was running and I was teaching English, so I moved to Thailand to teach English, and then I got here, the world went into lockdown. I lost my job and I had about 2 days to make a decision if I stay in Thailand or if I go back to Australia. And so I had no idea how long I would be locked out of Australia. I had no idea if I would have a job or not. There was so much craziness in the world at that time, and I just really felt into it. And my family was ringing me, my friends were ringing me like, get home, you don't know what's going to happen. And, I didn't know a single person in the country when I got here, and I made the decision to stay.
Let me ask you here, like, was the decision a challenge?
Yeah, it was. And one thing that I feel really passionate about in making a decision is making heartfelt decisions. And I think with so many things in our life, we get so caught up in our head and we rationalize things. And even though at that point, like the sensible thing to do would have been return to Australia because I didn't have a job. I was getting sent to a town where nobody speaks English. I was going to be locked up indefinitely. And, I spent 2 months in complete isolation. So I had all of these things telling me like the safe thing is to go back to Australia. And I really felt into the decision and what felt right. And all logic was telling me to go back. There was something within me that was telling me to stay. And I really connected to that feeling and made the decision. And it was the best decision I could have made in terms of my business, my personal life, absolutely everything.
Do you think that your journey came to this spot because this was your destination?
Yeah, absolutely. And I really love that question, Nour, because I think so often in life things present themselves and we see it as an obstacle or a challenge, or it gets too hard and we want to stop. But sometimes I believe, hard circumstances or these challenges can be such a gift in itself as well. And when we choose to see the gifts in it, this is where we can experience exponential shifts. We grow our resilience, we learn new ways to cope with things. We have to get really strong in our mind. And this for me was a complete gift because this business I had just launched and was going to be running it on the side of my full-time work. All of a sudden the work was gone and I just, I was locked in somewhere with no human interaction for 2 months in this tiny little condo. And I just made a decision. I'm going to make this business work. And all day, every day, I put my heart and soul into it. I did research. I created, all these different platforms. I created these courses and I worked and I put out my first course and my first course sold out completely. And then I started bringing in private clients and more private clients, and it just continued to grow. And there was a part of me that could have got stuck into, watching Netflix all day, every day and being scared. And, there was a lot of things that were presenting themselves at the time that in all honesty was quite scary. But I just decided to take that as this opportunity. I was like, I have no distractions. I have no work. I don't have a single person I have to think about except for myself and building my business, and just use my mindset so strongly and, had tools and strategies how to stay mentally healthy, I think, during that time, and was just so driven and on this path. And looking back, it was the best gift that could have happened.
Did COVID-19 push you to take a decision that you should have taken a long while ago?
I think I kind of did take a really big leap. It was about probably 2 years ago now, and I always worked for local government in community development. So I was always running, you know, like community programs and initiatives and capacity building and youth leadership programs and mental awareness programs. And I loved that job, but it wasn't my true calling. And as much as I loved the work, I didn't like the hierarchy. I didn't like sitting in freezing cold air conditioning every day. I didn't like being told when I work and when I don't work. So there were so many things out of alignment for me. And I think while I'd been working full time, I'd also been running yoga retreats on the side of that. And when I ran my first 7-day yoga retreat in Bali, something in me, I just felt so connected, and that people were getting amazing results and just loved the experience. And I made a decision right there and then that this is the path for me. I went back, I quit my job, and within 6 months, I quit my job. I was running a second retreat in Bali. And that's when I made the decision, you know, I'm going to go all in. And I invested massive money in coaches and all these programs, some good, some not so good. And that was a part of my journey when I got to Thailand, because I was actually living in New Zealand. I'd left my job in Australia, ran a yoga retreat in Bali, traveled all through India and Asia, went to New Zealand for 6 months. It wasn't for me. And then I had invested all of my money in travel and coaches, had no money left, just got enough money to get to Thailand, and then I lost my job. So it was part of this drive, like, this has to work. I've made the decision not to go back to Australia. I've got no money left. This absolutely has to work. So yeah, I think it was like using that drive and that passion as motivation. And one thing I think that is so important is just heartfelt decisions. And every single decision I made to leave my job, to keep running the retreats, to move into coaching, even though there has been risk and some of it's been scary, it has definitely been heartfelt, connected decisions every step of the way.
You think that success comes when we don't have another option? Like, this is the only option and it has to work?
I think that is part of it to a certain degree, but I think what I believe is when you find your calling and when you find what lights you up, then the obstacles that you need to overcome, you can get through them easier. And I think, you know, it's really interesting because some of my private clients, somebody I'm working with recently, again, building an online business and then really not enjoying the social media side of it and putting herself out there. So we're going through this process now, looking at it and saying, is this just fear? Because what happens is the voice creeps in and this fear, like, it's uncomfortable. I don't want to put myself on camera. I don't want to put myself out there. But at the same time, we want to build an online brand. So if that's what we truly desire, are we prepared to come with the challenges? That's doing Facebook Lives, that's doing all of the things that make up building an online brand. And I think this is where, and I've just been having this conversation with her today, funnily enough, it's like, this is where you just need to decide, is it what you truly want? Because I think when you want it so badly and you know it's for you, like, there have been a whole series of events in my life that have driven me to become a coach. I believe so strongly this was my calling, and everything that's happened in my life has been lessons and learnings to put me onto this path. So I think it's when you find it, it's you just will make it happen no matter what. And yeah, that was part of my story, being in lockdown without money and all the rest of it. But it was just so strongly knowing that this is my calling. And when these little things happen, you have a quiet month or a client falls through, or you start to doubt yourself, or you start to doubt what you're doing on social media, it's like you overcome it. You find a way, okay, I'm having some self-esteem issues. How do I overcome it? There is fear around this. How do I overcome it? And I think that is like a real driver that keeps you so strong on your mission and what you're trying to achieve.
Do you think that COVID-19 pushed you back, and let's say pushed other people back out of life distractions and gave you and others a quite clearer vision of what they need to do?
I think for some people, yes. And I think my personal opinion is COVID has amplified the type of people we are. So if you're somebody that's going to get consumed in mass media and spread fear and continue to spread fear, and every time you talk to somebody, it's about all the fear and the people dying and what's happening in the world, and you're feeding on the fear, then that's going to be amplified for you. If you're somebody that loses their business or loses their job, are you going to sit at home and be like, yeah, I can't believe this, I've lost my job? Or are you the type of person that steps up and be like, okay, I've lost my job, I'm not stopping until I get another one? Are you the type of person that is a messenger of love? And during this pandemic, have you been spreading fear or have you been spreading love? We saw this in relationships. Some relationships absolutely bloomed. Some relationships fell apart because there was all these underlying issues. But what happens is they spend 12 hours a day apart. So it doesn't matter. And then all of a sudden the kids are there, the partners are there. And for so many people that didn't work out because it amplified what was already there. But, you know, I have other friends where their relationship healed and bloomed. And so, yeah, my personal opinion that this whole thing is an amplifier of who we are, and our true colors really come out, and what's going on in our lives really is brought into the light.
How would you, sorry, how would you like to express your experience as a female entrepreneur in the foreign land?
It's actually, where I'm living is a really incredible space. So when I first got to Thailand, it was in a place called Bangsan Beach, and it's there's no tourists there, there's not an expat community there, and so nobody speaks English there. So I don't speak Thai, which I should, I know this. So communicating was almost impossible. So, you know, I had no communication, and I think long-term being in that environment, that would be quite challenging. But just recently, I then moved to Phuket for a while, and I've now come to Koh Phangan, which is full of digital nomads and other coaches, and also people like expats doing this type of work. So this is actually a really amazing place to be in, and just being in the vibe. So I think it purely depends on where you are, what country you are, and who you have surrounding you. And a huge part of working as an entrepreneur in the online space, I think mindset is everything. And again, I was having this discussion with one of my clients this morning, because so many people have this idealism that the online space, being a digital nomad, is just living the dream and just sipping on lattes, and you build up the scenario of what it looks like. And being a digital nomad is incredible. I love it so much. But then there's the other side where you have to be really scheduled. You have to be motivated. You know, some people, you've got to be the type of person that's not going to get distracted and lose 3 hours scrolling on social media. So I think with everything, there's pros and there's cons. And you get to live this amazing lifestyle and travel, but you've also got to be highly motivated and keep yourself accountable and have your own back. And when you're not getting that support from other people, you've got to give it to yourself. So I think with everything, there's always those pros and cons.
Let's dive into your program. Like, what main principles do you depend on helping people?
So I guess a lot of the work I've done is focused around really understanding underlying issues and belief patterns in our programming. So I'll give you an example of that, because you might be thinking, what on earth is she talking about? So people come to me for so many reasons. Some people want to lose weight. Some people want to get healthier. Some people have emotional stuff they want to work on. Some people want to build their online brand. And pretty much what I do with everyone is we go through this process. And, you know, as I said at the start, I look at, where do you want to be? Where are you now? And then let's make a plan to bridge the gap between that. And nearly every time, a lot of this comes down to our conditioning and our program when we were younger. So if there is something we really want to create in our life and we can't bring it in, that might be money, that might be relationships, that might be a certain job. There is a belief system that is attached to that comes from our programming. And what I do as a process is I go through with my clients and really start to shift those underlying beliefs. And say, for example, somebody comes to me and they're overweight and they desire to lose weight. So initially they'll be like, okay, Joe, give me an eating plan and tell me what to do and we're all good. And I'm like, nah. What we do is we look at, instead of just fixing the behavior, we all know eat healthy and exercise. But there is something that is driving that. And what I do through this process and look at what is driving this, because every time in our life we're using something like food, alcohol, drugs, sex addiction, gambling, excessive working, these are all buffers for something else. And generally there is this underlying emotion, there is something there, and we don't know how to deal with that. And what happens is this emotion starts to rise up, and it's like, whoa, it's uncomfortable, I don't like this, what is it? I'm going to have a drink, I'm going to eat some food, I'm going to do something to numb out and to buffer. And so what I do with people is go through this process of really understanding that, okay, what is that? What is coming up for you? How do we process this emotion in a healthy way and get clear on what it is so we can shift it? And when you shift this kind of like this undertow of murky water, then choices become different. And we go through a process where we rewire your brain that you want to make healthy choices, that you want to be more motivated, more driven. And it all stems from these underlying belief systems. So that's very much a kind of broad overview of what I do.
It's been more than amazing and more than awesome talking to you from your paradise. Thank you so much for your time indeed, Jo.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for having me. It was lovely to connect.